The mist is just lifting. That normally means it's going to be a hot day. There's mist in the morning. And it lifts quickly. It's about 6 a.m. Yeah. It's the 16th of December, so my first day after the office closes. So my office closes, my architectural office closes at the end of the year. We're part of the construction industry. So the industry closes basically around about this time, the 15th, 16th of December, and opens up maybe end of the first week of January. So that's great, because small businesses, and most architects are small businesses, one or two larger firms that are part of engineering houses and stuff, but most architectural firms are small businesses. They find it hard to shut down, they find it hard to close, and the owners of these small businesses find it hard to take a break and do some other stuff, because there are constant fires, explosions, things going wrong, things not working, that require the attention and the authority of the person in control. So it's quite a blessing to have an industry like ours that has a customary break. So this is what I'm pointing at now. This is the new camp that I put the cattle into just day before yesterday. So it's a very bushy camp. It'll really benefit from having some goats grazing here. We call this camp Harrier Home because there's a pair of forest harriers nesting in these blue gum trees. So the blue gum is a eucalyptus, Australian origin tree, but they grow very tall, and they are a great place for birds like the forest harrier to build a nest. So the nest is over there in that blue gum tree behind there, and I've been watching them for the last month as they clip giant long 1 meter twigs from the dead ends of these blue gum branches. So this camp is called Harrier Home, and we moved them from this camp here, which they were in for 2 weeks. So this one we call Bamboo Grove, because there's a grove of bamboos just down this side. And you can see how they really demolish the pasture here. So what I'm trying to say is that the cattle really enjoy it. I've told you guys about the temporary electric fence that I used to separate the pastures, and it takes the cattle a day or two. I train them into it. So this wire here right now is pulsing with 9,000 volts of electricity. How does that happen, you would say? Well, I'm connected to a motorbike battery, a 12 volt motorbike battery now. Let me take this bucket. See, this bucket that I have on top here like this is to keep the electrics dry inside here. So this is what's going on inside. There's a 12 volt motorbike battery, this guy here, connected to the positive terminal, negative terminal, and underneath here we have a thing called an energizer. So I'm going to switch it off now, alright? I'm going to change the battery. I change the battery every morning. So this is a thing called an energizer. By some magic, it now changes this 9-volt battery. The energy comes from a 9-volt battery into a 9,000 volt pulse that will come through this wire. I can now touch this wire because I switched it off. But if I hadn't switched it off, I would know all about it. I've accidentally shocked myself once or twice. So, in this way, the cattle get great new pasture every few days. Right now there's not much pasture here at all. There's grasses in between the scrub and the shrub underneath. But they come through, and we kind of work in tandem now, because they would come through and clear a little bit, stomping paths. You see, they stomp little paths and stuff. And that helps me to come in then again afterwards with the chainsaw and clear. I can also walk more easily because you see how they trim down these. So this is a very interesting, this is a longleaf willow, which is another Australian invasive. It's the same family as the Port Jackson, the Acacia saligna, and these, and millions and millions and millions of rands are spent in trying to clear areas where these have invaded. But I find very little talk about how cattle are an important part of that strategy. And I've really found here at Pebble Spring Farm that cattle are a very useful tool in removing or assisting me in the process of removing and transforming into pasture places that were dominated by these longleaf willow, Australian invasive plants. Okay, there's the middle calf, Como, and here's the mummy cow and the little calf. Mummy cow's name is Nomatamsanga, and calf's name is Kamva. So they love it here. Is it absolutely necessary for cattle to have beautiful, beautiful living environment like this? No, not necessary. Cattle don't die if you lock them in a barn, in a cubicle that is 1 meter by 2 meters, and you feed them a scientifically formulated mix of lucerne and whatever else pelletized, and you give them water, and you keep them disease free by giving them antibiotics, they don't die. So this pasture, this beautiful environment that these cattle in are not necessary for them. But that comes to a very important question of, is it good enough that we just give living beings what is necessary? And of course, living beings, you and I are also living beings. And what is necessary for us is actually very, very little. We can be locked in a hospital, locked in a hospital room strapped to a hospital bed and intravenously fed everything we want. That's all we need. But there's a different thing. There's an emotional calling that we have to do a whole lot of other stuff. Just like there's an emotional calling that these cattle have deep inside them to want to forage for their own food, to browse the leaves, to graze the grass, to find shade, and to be with their young. There's a strong emotional, there's no physical need for me to keep the calf with the mother anymore, but there's an emotional need that the mother has. I could take the calf away and lock it in a barn and give it everything it needs, inverted commas, that it's nourished. But there's an emotional, the calf wants to be with its mother. I can sense it. In the same way, I have a whole lot of emotional needs. There's a whole lot of things that I want, that I desire, that I feel inside myself, that may not make absolute sense. It has to do with just things that I feel, I don't want to be contained. I want to be in the company of a beautiful woman. I want to sleep when I feel sleepy. Maybe that's a physical need, I don't know. But I desire to listen to certain music. I desire to observe certain landscapes at certain times of the day even. It's not a need, it's a desire. And if I am kept from those desires, from fulfilling those things, it's cruel. And I think it's cruel to lock cattle up in a barn and feed them pellets. Not because they're not getting what they need, but because they're not getting what they desire, what they feel emotionally inside themselves. So the cattle want to be in pasture, ravaging this grass. But I think this grass also wants to be ravaged by the cattle. It wants it. It's always been like that. I find it quite easy to read the emotions of the cattle. Oh, over time, I can see when they're happy, I can see when they're stressed, just by little body language and noises. I don't think I can yet see the emotions of the grass. What does the grass want? But maybe it's not as instantaneous. I can see the way this grass bounces back in 2, 3, 4 weeks' time. I'll take you back here and I'll show you how this grass is bounced back and how the pasture is joyous. And as much as the cattle want to devour all this green grass that they've devoured and are now devouring it in that little camp that I put them into there, Harrier home, the grass also wants to be devoured emotionally. It doesn't need it. I can let this grass, this pasture, I can let it stand for 2 years, 3 years without being devoured and ravaged by cattle. But that's not what it wants. And the little game that I play is to try to be in tune as much as possible with what it is that the pasture desires. It's a game. It's no hard science. I try to be in tune as much with what it is that the cattle desire and want emotionally. And I try as much as possible And this is the most difficult part, to be in touch with what it is that I desire and want. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about this morning. Anyhow, I'm going to go into the office a bit, just wrap up those loose ends that are still hanging for the year. But I'm feeling good. Have a nice day, guys.